The battle that nearly changed the course of British history took place on the 21st of September 1745. It was an attempt to reinstate Catholic Stuart monarchy in Britain in place of the Protestant Hanoverians. The Battle of Prestonpans. A battle that has been remembered in Scotland many times through reenactments, and recently through a wonderful tapestry. The tapestry tells the story through picture panels. This video tells the story by means of the tapestry and reenactment together. Prince Charles Stuart began his journey in France, boarding a ship that would take him to Scotland. He arrived at the island of Eriskay off the west coast of Scotland, intent on raising an army to put his father James as king on the British throne. The first person he met, Alexander MacDonald, told him to go home, to which Charles replied that he had come home. Sailing on to the mainland, Charles landed alone, dressed as a priest, and sent his ship back to France. Staying in Borrowdale for a few days, he sent letters to all the Highland clans, urging them to come to him at Glenfinnan by the 19th of August. On that day, at first, only a handful of supporters appeared. 2 from one clan, 7 from another. But then 600 from the Cameron clan. Prince Charles raised his banner. The Jacobite rising had begun. In the 2018 reenactment, once the participants arrive and get settled in, it will be the Glenfinnan gathering that they portray first. Here come the first clansmen in answer to Prince Charles's invitation. A few here and there, but then on the hillside come the 600 men of the Cameron clan, a reassuring sight for Charles.
Excellent. Done. Done.
Prince Charles addressed them all, as did the clan leaders, and then the banner was raised. Charles's followers had begun to look like an army. And off they went on their way east to meet whatever stood in their way. Meanwhile, government forces, hearing of the rising, set out from Edinburgh, hoping to reach the vital Corrierac Pass before the Jacobite army. But they arrived a day too late. The Jacobites had got there before them. Sir John Cope, the government general, was afraid of being ambushed in the pass and decided, with his officers, to go north to Inverness to cut off Prince Charles from any further Highland support. But Prince Charles took the opportunity to go south towards Edinburgh. On his way, he bypassed strongholds like Stirling Castle and gathered further support in Perth and Falkirk. Finally, Charles approached Edinburgh. There, he demanded that the city council welcome him. The council couldn't make up its mind whether to welcome or refuse. But the Highlanders gained access to the city anyway. And in Edinburgh, Charles arranged for his father James to be proclaimed king. Meanwhile, Sir John Cope, realising his mistake, marched his men from Inverness to Aberdeen and embarked them to sail south. He landed at Dunbar and took his men westward to meet the Jacobite army. In the reenactment, they arrive to camp at Prestonpans. Sir John then consulted with his officers.
Gentlemen, I've gathered you here so we can discuss our actions against the Jacobite horde that has recently taken Edinburgh. As you'll no doubt be aware, we've chased the Highlanders through the Highlands, and so far we've not even seen the enemy. However, we have reports that they've since captured Edinburgh, although as far as I'm aware, the castle still stands. These Highlanders are not disciplined. Their clan chiefs forced them into the field. They have no morale. This young pretender is only a farce. They'll soon disperse when they realise that we are standing here. Gentlemen, I feel we need to hold our ground. We need to stand where we are. We have marshland.
Prince Charles, with his followers, moved east from Edinburgh and arrived in the same area as the government forces. They moved on to higher ground south of the government camp. The two armies, each with about 2,300 men, faced each other, but there was marshy ground between them. For most of the day, the armies exchanged musket fire with each other across the marsh. Charles discussed with his generals how they should fight.
What other option is there? This gives us the best chance of success, I would say.
Very well, then not the dark, but the near dark. We'll go in the morning. We'll go early in the morning and arrive before the dawn.
Listening in behind Prince Charles is a local man who has just told the prince that he knows of a narrow track through the swamp. So the Jacobite army drew back from facing the redcoats in order to get ready. At 4 o'clock in the morning, they made their way through the swamp and formed a line to the east of the government position. At 6 a.m, the sun rose and the morning mist cleared away. Sir John hurriedly roused his men and wheeled them round to face the new direction. But the Jacobite army, with the sun behind them, moved ahead and then charged. As the Highlanders rushed forward, the government cannoneers on the right flank, who were naval gunners, not army, fired once, then panicked and fled. The dragoons on both flanks also faltered, then galloped away. The infantry fired their volleys, but as the Highland army fell on them, many died. Others fled. The dragoons did reassemble, but would not rejoin the battle. Sir John Cope and his officers galloped away. The battle had taken less than 15 minutes. Of the government army, 400 died. 1,600 were taken prisoner. Only 170, led by Sir John Cope himself, managed to reach Berwick-on-Tweed. The Highlanders captured the government stores of muskets, ammunition, and money. That night there were great rejoicings in Edinburgh and a victory ball. It was an astonishing victory. Having landed alone on July the 23rd, by September the 21st, in less than 2 months, Charles had raised and inspired an army which conquered Scotland. During October, Charles negotiated with France, who agreed to help. The new recruits to his army were trained to fight. His council agreed to invade England, counting on English Catholics to join his army as they went along, and on a French invasion from the south. On the 1st of November, now numbering 6,000 men, they set out. The tapestry story ends here. But Charles's story goes on. By mid-November, Carlisle had surrendered to his army. Then Preston and Manchester. By mid-December, the Jacobite army was in Derby, London only 130 miles away. Charles wanted to press on. But with no French invasion materialising, and few Catholic supporters joining them, the Scottish leaders decided to go back, in the hope of more reinforcements in the spring. But that delay was fatal. The English army, recalled from campaigns in Europe, caught up with the Jacobites at Culloden. This time, the Highland charge was no match for the redcoat bullets and bayonets. Might a march on London have been successful? At that time, there was still no English army to bar the way. The Jacobites might just have got there in time and reinstated the Stuart monarchy. What is certain is the Battle of Prestonpans gave them a real chance of success. What remains of the rising today is a tall monument at Glenfinnan, where Charles first raised his banner, and in Derby, a statue of Charles on a horse, gazing longingly in the direction of London.